President Bola Ahmed Tinubu yesterday, Monday, met with newly appointed service chief in his office at the State House in Abuja. The meeting was the first known meeting between Mr. President and the service chief since their appointment last Friday. It was learned that the meeting served as an opportunity for the service chief to meet one-on-one with Mr. President and get the necessary brief from their commander-in-chief. It was also gathered that the swearing-in of the service chiefs and also decoration with new ranks will be after they have been confirmed by the Senate in line with the constitutional provisions. Already, Mr. President has forwarded the names of the service chief to the Senate for screening, and there are indications that the Red Chamber may confirm the appointees at plenary this week, which will most certainly kickstart them doing their job. With the surge of banditry in the northeast, insurgency in the northwest, farmer herders clash in the north central, IPOB activity in the southeast, more activities of kidnapping in the southwest, and the issues of piracy and oil theft in the south-south, it looks as if the job of the new service chief is already cut out for them, and a need for us to talk about it on this edition of Dialogue Today. And that is the coming of the new service chief, Nigerians looking at what they need to do. That's what we're looking at today on Dialogue Today. And we're talking about the coming of the new service chief, and already Nigerians seem to be setting the agenda for us to see what they need to do to indeed make Nigerians seem more secure. But anyway, on a secure note, it is right I really introduce our guest. He's a criminal expert and also someone that deals highly on security. And I'm talking of no other person but Mr. Sam Daffy. Good morning and also welcome to the show.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Yes, I want us to just go straight to it. Lieutenant General Oluyede is now the Chief of Defense Staff to replace General Christopher Musa. Major General W. Shaibu appointed Chief of Naval Staff. Air Vice Marshal S.K. Eneke now becomes Chief of Air Staff, and Rear Admiral Abbas takes over the Chief of Naval Staff. And what's your reaction to this change of service chief that many will say took them by surprise? Are you surprised that we're having new service chief, or do you feel different about, or you feel it's about time we really need to have a change of guard?
Now, thank you very much once more for having me. And I'm going to be very, very explicit. And as much as it may be a shock to people,
yes,
I don't think it's supposed to be. It's expected.
Okay.
Because professionally, every other 2 years you expect there must be a change of guard at that strata, and it's not because that's the tradition in Nigeria.
Okay.
And so what normally is obtainable if they have done creatively well, and Mr. President has all the prerogative powers, to do whatever he wishes to do, and it feels like, okay, they are good, and what do I do? They have done well, and so we need to commend them so they can extend their tenures.
Okay.
So, but otherwise, if it feels like we need a change of architecture and all that, so they can bring in, inject new fresh blood into the system. So I think that's what Mr. President took advantage of. That's all. Nothing much, and then expectations.
So it was no surprise to you having them changed.
It was no surprise to me having them changed.
Okay.
It was no. It would have actually been a surprise if he had let them be on. Yes, that's what I think. But I was thinking that, okay, if because what you do, we have a standard. We have, you just oppose it with what was obtainable before they came in, and you want to view it at that level and see how far we have gone, security-wise. Have we been able to curb insecurity in the country and all that? Then you now begin to mark each and every one at their various, area and see if they've done creatively well. Personally, for one, I think Ogala did very well as the Chief of Naval Staff. He did very well. He was able to curb oil theft to about 70% by about 7. So I think he did creatively well, because you want to give kudos to such a man. And I think Christopher too, Lieutenant General Christopher Musa didn't do that bad. I was thinking that what would have been really different, or rather what Mr. President would have done, was to really be more strategic. And I think of, okay, what do we do? How do we go about it? Not necessarily the service chiefs, but how to go about,
Yeah, we're coming to how to go about it, because that's more like setting the agenda for this new service chief. But like you said, it was no surprise for you. Many groups were also demanding for a change. And one group that was demanding for the change was Northern Youth.
Northern Youth,
Yes, they were really demanding for the change of the service chief. And funny enough, they had a lot to talk about yesterday, and they also are seeking for a review and reform of the National Security Advisor role, especially as it concerns the security architecture. Now, I want you to respond to that, because they said Mr. President should not just stop there with the change of service chief. He should also bring that down into the reform of the NSA. I want you to respond to that now new demand, because they made that call just yesterday when they had a briefing.
In making that call, they are not doing more than the obvious. That's what it ought to be, because who is the driver of the national security architecture? Is the ONSA, is the Office of the National Security Advisor. So you see that much is expected of the services who take orders from the NSA than the NSA himself. So I think we need to really change our entire security architecture. What is obtainable, for instance, United States of America, for instance.
Yes.
We have what we call the Joint Chief of Staffs, and we have the National Security Council. All these are advisory bodies. All the Joint Chief of Staffs they play an advisory role. Joint Chief of Staff is a combination of all the service chiefs. Like we have the Naval, we have the Marine Corps, we have the Air Force, and all. So these are people who play advice. So I was thinking, and the Joint Chief of Staff Council comprises of all that, not just the service chiefs per se. So it brings all the intelligentsia, like broader thing, intelligentsia within the military. So they have a broader spectrum to play from, just unlike what we, the buck ends in the office of the chief service chiefs and all that. So we need to be, more open-minded. Let me put it like that. In tackling our security level of our insecurity. Why don't we think of how to create something bigger, a platform? For instance, the National Security Council, that comprises of the ONSA, though it could be driven by the Office of National Security Advisor, but just with broad spectrum, bring in even like minds in the intelligentsia, go to the academic, bring intelligentsias on board. Where civilians can come play roles, because they know some things about these things, and just like we're talking here, I see things differently from the way the military man will look at it, and I'll have one or two inputs to make, based on the fact that this is my area of specialty. Then when you now bring them on board and think of how to address them. So I think that the Nigerian government, or those saddled with responsibility of governance, should look beyond what we have now and create something like a miniature of what we have in America, for instance. Create a National Security Council that comprises of maybe a Joint Chief of Staff Council, and all that. Then probably look at maybe, security consultants who can bring them, people who have one or two inputs to make, the civilian core, bring them into part two. So these are the ways that I think they can go about it and we're able to achieve something wonderful.
Okay. Well, anyway, well said. Now, Nigerians will be saying, when we always have a new guard, new change of service chief, there's always that improvement. Yeah, the security architecture will change. We have always successively, right from the coming of even the previous administration, when there's a change of service chief, we see relatively calm. We see some few successes being achieved. So there's no surprise that we might see this. But the problem Nigeria has always had is the issue of sustainability. Having these successes go for a long period of time. Now, my question is, in line with these beliefs that Nigerians have, are we going to see a different narrative with this new coming service chief? Because, we'll definitely see them gain some few successes, but are we going to see a sustained battle against this insurgency that will make us feel like, yes, we've now finally had hit the bullseye?
Now, yes, there's a possibility of doing that, but I think that why I'm trying to say that we should have a broader spectrum is so that nobody thinks that my cause is being, outwitted. We are not part of the system and all that. Because one thing that leads to the lower morale of personnel is when they discover that, okay, they have eaten into their coursemate time. And for instance, the chief of army staff, like you were from course 38, and those, it now takes about 3-4 years. You discover that those within the ambit of the course 39, 40, and 41
will be gone.
Because the next time they want to appoint probably a next chief of army staff, you discover
will definitely not come from them.
So they will discover that because they may have certainly had lived at time. So before you see it, each time they appoint one who is younger, you have a serious outflow. There will be outflows of security generals at that cadre, so that because at that level you discover that
Yeah. Sorry to cut you short because I was almost going there.
Yeah.
Because with our own knowledge on dialogue, we do know that the CDS will now become a full general.
Yes.
And we're talking about a 4-star general.
Yes.
Which will be different from the remaining 3 service chiefs.
Yes.
And I know the new service chiefs will be promoted to lieutenant generals or equivalent in either the Navy or also in the Air Force.
Yeah.
But that's not where my question lies, because you brought this up, and that's why I want us to go there. Now, with also our own intelligence finding, we do know about almost 500 generals might have been retired all the way from former President Muhammadu Buhari up till this very last.
That's the truth.
500 young generals.
Yes.
Now, my question is, we're having a rise of insecurity, and these are able hands that will help us in the fight. But my question is, help us, walk us through our loss and why it seems that we need to lose these 500, just like what you are saying now. And will it not impact negatively on us dealing with this insecurity?
Okay.
If that's the follow-up question to that, so just help us understand all of this.
Okay, now this I earlier said, okay, what we have in the US is a Joint Chief of Staff Council, right?
Yes.
And it has a broader spectrum. It's not basically just the service chiefs per se. It consists of all the, so it gives room for followership.
Yes.
It's not as if it is not expected, it's not done in Nigeria. Like what we do from the onset to the CDS to the Chief of Army Staff and down to various service chiefs and down to garrison commanders and all that and sector commanders and then even to the theater, So we already have this. So there's a command chain in the military that follows, Then
that flows down.
That flows down. So now I will do a basic, very fundamental analysis. I think is common, which I think is just a common knowledge, One, it will not be a minus. Everybody has been part of the system, from the onset down to the sector commander, and even down to those who are the theaters who carry out the operations. So you see, it's not a minus. They are already aware of what it is. So if the generals leave, it's just a step up. And now I will tell you why the generals have to leave. Why would they leave? I just said earlier, for instance, the one that will be appointed now as the Chief of Army Staff will be a 44th Corps member. And probably the generals who are there are 39, 40, 41, 42. You don't expect to serve. The military is a professional body. You don't expect to serve under your junior. So the moment your junior is appointed as a Chief of Army Staff,
you have to go.
You have to go. That's just the way it is. It's strictly a professional body, and it is structured in that manner. It's not like...
Is it only Nigerian military or cut across all board?
I think so. I sincerely think so. Because like what they do in the US, for instance, it's a 4-year term. It's a 4-year term for this Joint Chief of Staff Council. So you come and stay. So you see, once that one leave, they come in. So you discover that it's not just 4-5 persons that are in the Joint Chief of Staff. So we believe that it's a system that takes more than it can go beyond that kind of level. It's broad spectrum. So everybody has a role to play. So and I think that it's not going to be a loss for us. It's certainly going to be a win. Then as it pertains to if they're going to be gains, there are going to be serious gains.
So we should not lose sleep on that.
No, we shouldn't lose sleep on that. We shouldn't lose sleep on that. I see the Chief of Army Staff. He's a very serious professional. He's been in the theater for a very long time. Yes, he's been a professional army and a soldier, and I have so much confidence in him.
Okay, now I still want us to remain with the issue of the change of guard. With information reaching us, the outgoing service chief will greatly gain a lot. You are still talking about gains, but let's leave what our gains will be, but look at their gains. Now, their take-home package, many will say is outrageous at the moment. And even we've had many people coming out to cry out that, wow, why are you giving this outgoing service chief so much? As in take-home pay, severance packages, and all of that. Now, many are already insinuating that would it not be a follow-up of a recent news of a takeover by a section of the military? So there's this speculation that seems to be building and brewing around the issue of the recent severance package for the outgoing general. So I want you to just respond to this allegation. And is there any bite of truth in it, or do you feel it's just mere speculation?
I want to sincerely tell you something. there's this debt of trust in our governance system. So when people talk, those who are saddled responsibility of governance talk, Nigerians don't tend to believe. In this part of the world, or rather, let me say in Africa, actually it's a global phenomenon. People don't trust the government that much, but it's worse off when it comes to Africa and in Nigeria in particular. So when the people who are, the security agents have told us there was no such thing, why are we doubting them? Is because we don't trust them. That over time they have said things that are not real. They will always come back and say, oh, we're sorry, it's actually this, it was this and this, and begin to give excuses. So there has not been any time wherein we have so much trust and belief in those in the government. You understand? So I think that's the major problem we have. I want to believe what the then CDS said, that there was no coup attempt. What they had was some level of indiscipline,
among high rank.
Then another thing I want to tell Nigerians is this. For you to be able to carry out a coup, you look at the possibility of what is this? Is the person in a strategic place? What is the
dynamics?
The dynamics and the quantity of those under his commands. Is he in a position where he can have access to basic and fundamental things that can cause a change in government? So these are things we must, and I think it is not. So I want to believe that. I want to toe their line. As much as I don't want to, but I wish to, so that it becomes, not a surprise to me.
But are we making so much noise out of it? Do you feel Nigerians are making so much
Yes,
noise?
I think it's diversionary. I think there are issues we should be looking at now, economic issues, political issues and all that. We should be looking at them. There are things to talk about. The INEC chairman has just been appointed. We should make demands. This is what Nigerians should be giving their energy to, not this, to me it's just diversionary, so to me it doesn't work that way.
Well, okay, now let's still remain with the issue of insecurity, because according to our findings and according to reports from DSIL International, which is also a tracking body that deals with insecurity, we've had about 545 incidents were recorded in August alone this year, and which led to about 732 fatalities, which is one of the highest in the second quarter of 2025 as it concerns insecurity and deaths of Nigerians. Sad one it is. And it puts August as one of the most bloodiest months in the second half of this year, which everybody will say, well, it's enough reason for the change of the service chief in the first place, though. But let's leave this change of the service chief and now set the agenda for this new service chief. Yeah, Mr. President had a lot to say about yesterday when he met them formally one-on-one, and he charged them to ensure that Nigerians should sleep with their two eyes closed. And he told them to immediately, undermine they've not gotten confirmation from the red chambers, but start to indeed implement what should be to ensure that Nigerians are more secure. Now, for you, I'm happy you're an expert. That's why we brought you here. You've seen what seems to be on the plate. You've seen some of the successes we've had, especially against eliminating or neutralizing, I rather call it neutralizing, major bandit leaders, and also the issue of piracy and how they've really given that a heavy blow as it concerns even what seems to be happening in the South. But for you, what do you feel this service chief should do and do differently?
Okay.
From the previous ones. Let's understand, because it's not all about talking, but actually finding solutions that will better strengthen and help this nation. Okay. What do you feel they do?
Thank you very much. That's a very, very important and strategic question. I want to tell you this thing, and tell Nigerians this as well. Sincerely, what we need to do is not within the ambits of the security chiefs, or the service chiefs rather. I think Mr. President should come out with a policy, maybe would send a bill to the National Assembly for the creation of the National Security Council that can integrate both the military, the police, the DSS, then the traditional rulers, because we're trying to have a broader spectrum of intelligence gathering. What do we call intelligence? It's actionable information. And any information are within the confines and disposals of these persons who reside in communities. These people are not spirit. They are not spirit. The bandits and the terrorists are not spirits. They live amongst people. So what we need, religious leaders, traditional rulers, bring them on board into a broader spectrum of what we call the National Security Council. Then we have, create something we call the Joint Chief of Staffs, where we have all the garrison commanders, we have brigade commanders at that level, battalion commanders. We bring them into the, at that joint chief of staff meeting where they come, harmonize ideas, and they advise the National Security Council, who intends pass and resolute on some things and pass them over to Mr. President. I tell you, Nigeria will be better for it. Sincerely, if we are able to come up with that kind of platform, platform, you will discover that because they don't live in the moon. The bandits don't live in the moon. They transverse the length and breadth of our communities. They live amongst us. They work beyond. They were part of our communities before they went into this life. So what we now have to do is discover that information about them, actionable information about them, will be readily available to the end user. Who is the consumer? Who is the consumer? Probably the NSA and all that. So we need to do this. Look beyond,
But would there not be constitutional issues surrounding the creation?
As I said. The president should come out with an executive bill and send to the National Assembly. That's why I started by saying the president should come out with an executive bill and send to the National Assembly. And don't forget also, there are those who are operational, we call them the foot soldiers, who are at the theaters, operating at the level. We need to take care of them. Their welfare is so terrible, very wonderful welfare. And we need to give them welfare, but to be encouraged. And if they need be, insure their lives. So that if they're no more, their families knows that, okay, breadwinners were able to live in while they are gone, so people will now begin to think of, okay, we need to be more patriotic, we need to do this, and so even if I die, you're proud of it, so your
understand
your family is taken care of. So I think we need to not just begin to change the guards services and all that. It's way beyond that. And I don't forget that, I know Mr. President said this, that they want to be more digital in their competition. Wonderful, that's wonderful. But we need to go beyond policy statements. We need to go beyond policy statements in this country. We need to be more decisive. You understand? More strategic. The National Security Council, or probably which is driven by the ONSA, should come out with a strategic blueprint. Battles are won and lost at the strategic and tactical warfare. Now, the tactical part of it will be left for the service chiefs to handle. But strategically, the National Security Council should come up with a more broader, better thing to do. You understand? So that's what I'm saying. And Nigeria will be at peace in no distance time.
So you see that happening?
If we are serious, and I will take away the political elements, and because like I always say, the political will is one thing. We can say all these and come up with beautiful policies, statements, and all that. But if the political will to enforce them is not there, there's nothing we can do about it.
Okay, now talking about what we need to do about it. Yes, when there was a new change of service chief, a name prop up that many Nigerians are also asking that Mr. President should also think towards, and is the Inspector General of Police. Yes, and many are saying, well, if you can change the service chief, why not go ahead and effect a change also in the Inspector General of Police? Do you feel Nigerians should be a bit bothered about that? Or do you feel, irrespective of who is there, it really doesn't have any major bearing as it concerns insecurity of the country?
It does. You can't rule that out. Not just the Inspector General of Police. I sincerely believe that the NSA should be changed. Because we are in war. When you're in war, you go with your best. I'm not trying to undermine the person of Nuribadu, but I'm saying that we need a better deal. We have a lot of retired intelligence corps from the DMI, retired DMI directors and all that we need to drive. So we need to be. I'm serious. Nigeria, we need to be very serious. We are in a war. When you're in a war, you don't take things for granted. You bring your best spirit. So not just the police IGP, the NSA sincerely has to go, because he's been the one driving this. Then before this the new changes. So what you want to do, you want to inject new blood, you come up with fresh ideas,
But will we not be losing? Yeah, I know you initially said yes, irrespective of whether these persons go, we still have other persons that are willing and ready to fill the gap. But would experience not also be lacking if we constantly have a change of these persons?
I just said earlier that if you want to look at an NSA, for instance, you can pick from within the ambit of retired DMI directors, which is Defense Military Intelligence Directors, and these are people you can bring over because they have knowledge. They know what is, what has been happening, and we have the retinue of them from 920, who have retired from 1999. I was started at New Democracy till now, and so we can take advantage of that and use that.
As a pool of persons
You
who can seek for
understand?
the
Pool of
national
people
security.
you can assess them. So we have to be very serious. And you don't expect, I'm sorry, but it's not something, you don't expect a police chief from, I'm trying not to,
to undermine his person.
His capabilities and all that, as wonderful aids and all that to work. But you don't just keep the best 11 and you want to use reserve. You go with your best team. So Mr. President has done incredibly well by changing the guards. He should do more. The IGP has stayed, and I think he may have overstayed his. So he can do better, inject fresh blood. I'm going by his words. He's trying to inject fresh blood. Bring in a new IGP, bring in a new DG of DSS, and bring in a new NSA. I'm sure that at that level, we know is very, very serious.
Well, anyway, it's a serious talk and one we've been having for a while now, and we're talking about the issue of the change of guard, especially as it concerns the service chief. You do know on Friday, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu had to remove the former chief of the CDS. I'm talking about retired Major General Christopher Musa now, as he will be called, and put in a new, or rather had a rejig of the full security architecture to try to see how we can really muzzle out ourselves from the growing insecurity that seems to have bedeviled us for a pretty long time now. But the question is, what would or what should be the direction that this new service chief should follow? Should it be more focused on, just like he said, more of information gathering and making it more broad to even bring other persons on board that will help change the narrative, or should it be different in every approach? That is what the question is. We will soon allow you go, but one quick question I would like to bring to you is, we've had this discussion many times, and I still want to bring it to your fold. Should we continue with this kinetic measure, or should non-kinetic measures also be introduced to put an end to this growing insecurity? Yes, we've been battling it ever since, for how many years now? And many are saying, okay, would this bring an end? Has whatever brought end to any conflicts? Has it ever, is it not dialogue that have resolved some of the major issues? So let's understand, should we still continue with kinetic or non-kinetic approach should also be seen to us?
Now, my great, you see, is in the words of the retired immediate past CDS, he said you don't negotiate with these elements. That he knows them. He's been in the theater. He's been a theater commander for various times and all that, So he's been there. You don't, because whatever they tell you is not reliable. Whatever they tell you, they won't carry it out. They will only, because their actions and acts are not based on ideology. Theirs is to come and instill fear and terror so that for economic gains. So it's not basically an idea. So what are you going to negotiate with him for? What are you going to tell him? Because they have been so indoctrinated into this thing and radicalized such a way that, they will always be rebellious. So I think the non-kinetic thing is just wasting our time.
But we've de-radicalized most of them, brought them back into the fold of the Nigerian
Have you asked yourself why there's so much high level of sabotage? Have you asked yourself that? So it's like moving from one form to the other. So I basically believe that it's just a waste of time to go and negotiate with terrorists. You see, when you pound them, when you make them weaker, at that level you have an advantage.
Every advantage to talk.
You now begin to talk. You don't talk from a point of weakness. You talk from a point of strength. Look at let's go take what is happening between Hamas and Israel.
Yes.
You will agree with me that if Israel has not if they have not bombarded and pounded them like they did now, it would have been difficult for you to discuss with Hamas. There was a ceasefire that happened recently, and there was a little infringement. And what did Israel did? Release over 50 tons of bombs on the land of, so you see, you need to be decisive. Show some level of strength. The day you negotiate from the place of weakness is the beginning of a failure. We must come with a full bridge. Full bridge, come with serious military might to make them, to underwhelm them and make them understand that we are in charge here. we're not negotiating at your terms. And it's so demeaning when I see bandits come with some level of arms. They bear arms in themselves. They come to meetings where we have military personnel and they carry arms, carry all SMG, they carry GM, GPMG, and all, they carry serious all various arms. And you see them even with RPG, and you begin to wonder what is happening. And where we have our peace, where we have our security personnel bearing arms, they still come with their arms. You don't negotiate from a place of weakness. That's one thing the new service chief must look into. If we must indulge in or maybe integrate the non-kinetic measure, we must do it from a place of strength.
And not that of weakness.
And not that of weakness.
Well, anyway, it will not be a weak thing for us to see. We really appreciate your time with us.
Thank you.
It has been very insightful, direct, and dealing with the issues. That's what we always love to always do on Dialogue, and bringing strong, well-knowledgeable resource persons like yourself is what we pride ourselves on the show always. And we really need to thank you so much. I'm talking of no other person, but I rather call him Mr. I will call himself faster. Anyway, we're Reverend or whatever. I'll rather call him Mr. Sam Edafi. Yes, I really would appreciate you for coming through, Omojefe Edafi, for bringing your insight and your professional look into all of the issues. We truly appreciate the time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for being a part of it. And for us, it's more like a wrap on the show today. And indeed, we'll always implore you that if you have any reaction as it concerns our topic for today, we're talking about the change of guard and the coming of the new service chief. What approach should they take? What direction should they take? What part of strength should they adopt for them to indeed give us what we truly need and what President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has mandated them to do? And all of that, please send those comments on our different social media platforms. Remember, we always have them as they come. We always appreciate. It's even right. I tell you, we appreciate all the comments we've been getting. It has really been very encouraging, and indeed want to show us that many of you are indeed following us and you're loving what we're doing. We really appreciate all your comments and contributions, and we only implore you to continue, drop those comments, share, like, and also be a part of the interaction. The interaction or the discussion doesn't end here. Let's continue on that on our different social media platforms, and we really appreciate all of that.